right, so we kind of came together, kind of bonded a friendship over Ukraine. So tell me about Ukraine.
Okay, so it was super interesting. So, man, there was the war started, right?
Yeah, like what was it, February 28th? Boom, there's a war.
Yeah.
Somebody call you or what?
So, no, I have some buddies who were already kind of going prior to the war, which I just kind of thought was cool, right? I was like, oh, that's interesting, like whatever. And then the war kicked off and I was like, oh, fuck, this is actually happening. And there were some guys actually on Instagram, some Ukrainian guys, specifically one guy. I'm not gonna say his name. He's no longer with us, but me and him started talking. We were talking every day, and I think like 2 weeks into the war started, I landed in Warsaw, Poland, and I went over there with a couple guys, some really, really close buddies of mine, and we went over for humanitarian work. So we were like, we're able-bodied dudes. There's no fucking reason that we should be sitting here watching this and like not lending some sort of hand, especially like on the humanitarian side. Like I get the war and everybody fighting and all of this stuff, but dude, like at the very beginning of the war, I mean, do y'all remember the women and children that were fleeing? Like it's like millions, and there was like a huge problem with human trafficking and like organ harvesting, and all these people pent up in like train stations, and they were walking miles and miles in the freezing cold with children and old women, and dude, it was just a shit show. And we were like, we gotta fucking help, like in some way. So yeah, we were working in Medyka, Poland, which is the biggest border crossing from Lviv. And yeah, we were just working security for these tents that were housing women and children, just kind of preventing, like super basic, just preventing males from coming into the facility, basically.
So let me. So you guys don't know. This has been a year. Like, what month are we in right now? April. So almost a year ago, just a year and a month ago is when this all started. And this is when you went. This is also when I went. We were actually in Warsaw the same time.
Oh,
right?
Nice. Yeah.
Our mutual friend at that time was like, dude, you got to hook up with him. And I'm like, okay, but the everything that was going on, it just didn't work out that way. But so I spoke to some guys today on a conference call, and we were talking about the different charities that were there working. One thing that I didn't know, and literally until today when you said that, is those guys, those bigger charities were all trying to break up the human trafficking, because there were literally thousands of people that would go to these camps and just disappear.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Or,
yeah.
Absolutely. Or they were like, hey, we're like, they disguised themselves as a charity to grab these people, and then they never showed up.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we ran into that a lot. So I know that I was saying, like, obviously what we were doing was relatively basic, but no, like the entire time, like there was multiple times throughout the time that we were there where we were having to get rid of dudes. Even like different organizations, individual people. A big thing was people would come down, like a lot of people would come down from Warsaw or from different, countries or bigger cities, and they would come to these facilities and they would be like, hey, well, we can shuttle them from this camp to this city, whatever city they need to go to. And then there's places there that can house them and feed them and whatever. And it's like a fucking coin toss. It's like some of the people were decent, and like that's actually what they were trying to do, is help their neighbor, and the other half were people that were trying to fucking steal them. That was a huge problem. So I mean, there was like multiple times where we had to get physical people trying to get them out there or get them out of there, because obviously like there's a language barrier. Like we don't speak any of those Slavic languages. So there, there's that. And then, the tiny problem that we were having, which wasn't a problem, more so just like cool for storytelling, was gypsies. We had a huge problem with gypsies while we were down there.
The Romanians? Were they Romanians?
Yeah. So the camp that we were working at had like, God, 50, 60 tents that are all set up for different things, food, feminine products, different services, right? And they would come in acting like they're refugees, and they would just come and take shit.
It's the gypsies.
Yeah.
I'm not dogging on Romania. I'm just saying I see a lot of gypsies that were Romanian. It was a lot.
Yeah. So that was when we were working at the border. We also did some work in the Warsaw Central train station. Because you can look up videos from whenever the war started of what that train station looked like. It was a shit show. Like lining every wall and every rail, downstairs, upstairs, on the stairs. Thousands and thousands of people just huddled up waiting for trains, That was still similar, like dudes would come and steal people from there like crazy. And then we also just passed out food and shit like that. But going back to working at the border, we would work shifts for the tents that were housing the children and women. And whenever we weren't doing that, we were shuttling supplies in and out of Ukraine. Like on foot, right? So there was, lines of like thousands of women in the freezing fucking cold, dude, in the middle of the night, right? Like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. It's 15 degrees outside, and there's women in a mile-long line with no fucking shoes on, right? So we would go and, dude, it's just like, it almost, you almost feel stupid because it's like, what really can you do? But it's like, food and blankets and shoes and socks and clothes and feminine products and shit like that. And just like all day, just walking it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's crazy seeing these people that 2 weeks before that were living in their houses, and they're totally, dude, no different than people living here in America, right? Living in their house, driving to their job, like zero difference. And now they've packed up a backpack for their whole life. And that's it. They have their backpack. Their kid has their backpack. Their grandma or their mom has their backpack, and that's it. Have to pack up your entire life into a fucking one single backpack and leave your country. And there's no, list that says, oh, these people have left the country or are leaving the country. So everybody that's leaving, it's just a shit show. Like, nobody knows that these people exist, right? There's no way to keep track of this. So that's why human trafficking is so easy. Like, nobody knows that these people are, there's no way of tracking any of it. So they can take whoever the fuck they want, and nobody would know. So that's why, like, especially in moments like that, where it's like a crisis and everybody's fleeing, like, oh, dude, they snatch people up like fucking crazy.
Yeah, and so for those viewers who don't know, why was it only women and children? Because some people may not know.
Right, yeah. So men couldn't leave country. Fighting age males could not leave the country of Ukraine. They had to stay and fight for their country. They had no choice. And it's funny that you say that, because actually while we were there and while we were on the Ukrainian side, we saw a couple times where like males that, were, older than me, and they would be walking with like their wife and their daughter trying to leave their country. And dude, they'd get snatched. The military would grab them, rip them away from their family, and the women and children would be crying. And there was one guy that was like, "Oh, I have dual citizenship. I live in another country, or whatever." And they're like, "Well, you can fucking figure it out because we're taking you." And dude, it's sad. Like it's a sad reality. And it is what it is. But yeah, dude, they'd come and snatch people out of the lines. So
yeah, I think which goes back to the war club idea, is you with your own eyes have got to see how nasty the world can actually be. And so some people will never get to see that, but you get to tell those stories like we're telling them now.
Right.
But yeah, I still always revert back to our founding fathers in America. They, in this order, they gave up their fortune, they gave up their real estate, they gave up their family, and they gave up their lives. In America today, we're willing to give up our lives for this country or for what we believe in. We're willing to give up our families because we still we send them to war. Right. But we're not willing to give up our real estate or our fortunes because all we care about in America now is stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so how many other and I'm not dogging you if you didn't do anything, right? I understand everybody has their own thing, who they are and what's going on in their life and their own convictions. But I similarly went to you I similarly went over there because of you. I saw a little girl, and I have 3 little girls. So I saw a little girl and I thought she was dead. And I thought, well, I'm pretty sure she was screaming for her dad.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So I could be that dad and I'm going to go over there and help.
Right.
So I've got to see things with my eyes that most people are never going to get to see. But the most important thing that I experienced, and I'd like your take on this, is in America, we're like so bored that we create problems that don't really matter.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That shit pisses me off. So whenever I was first like getting into Ukraine, so I took 3 trips over there. And I was struggling with that pretty bad. And I was frustrated a lot, and I took it out on, friends and family. And I don't know, dude. It's like people here bitch about the stupidest shit. And we cry and we moan and we complain about how shitty our lives are. And it's just like, holy shit, dude, you have no idea. Like you have no clue what a fucking hard life is. Like I'm sitting here, I'm a fucking 25-year-old dude. I make great money, camp all the time, travel as much as I want. I own my house. I have food on my table. I get to see my daughter every day. I have all of these great things. And it's like, okay, right across the world in a place that operates very similar to here, people there's fucking streetlights out there. They drive Mercedes. They drive supercars.
Teslas. I saw Teslas.
They wear fucking Rolexes and they have nice clothes and they go to their 9 to 5 and they call their wife on their way home and she bitches him out about something. He goes home and sees his kids, like totally the same, except now they're being slaughtered in the streets. They're being executed. Their hands are being bound. Going like super backtrack really quick, going into like another reason why I started to get involved in the war was I saw some of the shit that was happening. I saw a picture of a pile of bodies with a little blonde, probably 4 or 5-year-old girl on top with her hands tied behind her back with a fucking bullet through the back of her head. I was like, that's my little girl. Like, that's my daughter. And yeah, it just fucked me up, dude. And I was like, I can't sit around and fucking not try and do something,
Yeah, I did as well. So I struggled for, I don't know. I spent, several months over there last year, going back and forth. And I struggled the first couple of times coming back and integrating back into America. Like, even with my family, I'm like, whatever problem you're talking about right now doesn't matter. And I had to really cope with that, reach out to some people and talk to them and say, hey, I'm like going off on my kids or like irritated with them because they're talking about their volleyball coach and how their volleyball coach didn't play them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's a like crisis for them. And for me, I'm like, I just was over there with people who can't even play. You don't even say the word volleyball, right? I mean, we were all living in the same facility with 100 of us, and there was thousands of us around, and like we became very close friends. And guess what? Nobody cared about money or stuff. Or
it's funny how whenever shit like that's going on, how little people care about like like social power or like cool things.
Yeah,
like cool cars and cool watches and cool clothes and nice purses and. Shit, like nobody cares, dude.
Yeah, I promise you're gonna leave your Louis Vuitton at your house whenever there's another country invading yours, and they're kicking you out, right?
Yeah. I mean, and so I will say, like, not to shame us. Like, it's great that we don't have to deal with that. Like, it is very awesome that that is not something that we have to deal with. And we're not trying to discredit that, right? So obviously, it's great that we're not being invaded and that our people aren't getting murdered and bombed and killed every day. But it's just like taking yourself out of this out of your mind for a second, like out of what you're used to and looking at it from the perspective of some of the shit that's going on in other places on the planet. And it's just like, hey, we do have it really nice, and we probably take a lot of shit for granted.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. We get to have the life we had because great men and women before us, they're giants, and they shed their blood, they gave their time, they gave their lives for this country, and so that we could live this life. So I just sometimes wish the average American, especially the freaking news media, both sides, might have to just spend some time over there for a little bit to realize that, maybe we could let some things brush off our shoulders.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's frustrating seeing some of that. And what's the adage? I heard it actually on a podcast, and it's something like hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men, and weak men create weak times.
Weak men create hard times.
Or create hard times, right.
Yeah, no, that's
we're in a society right now of weak men creating hard times.
That's exactly where we are. I don't know how much longer this lasts. I don't know if it's 10 more years, 20 more years, but yeah, we are definitely creating weak men right now and hard times.
Oh, yeah, for sure.